pony right now. I said I would only say pony once. I just said it twice, so that's enough of that.
Chapman, who's
won the Best Actor award yet? The Oscars are going on live as we speak, but gives the monkeys. Hey, Rog.
Okay, this is disgraceful. This is a podcast outrage. All right, what else? Cricket, Chairman?
Out of beer. Cricket. It's
cricket and Scottish cricket.
It's just not cricket. I'm starting to sound like the Men in Blazers, and I can't stand those two wankers.
What else do we have? You know, I don't have the lineup in front of me.
We did have a question on Twitter from our favorite fan in Florida, Orlando Spurs, at Orlando Hotspurs. He has asked the question.
I'm not prepared for this.
Yeah, well, it's all right. It will not hurt the brain too much. But who should be our captain? Again, we had this conversation a few weeks ago. Lloris has assumed that mantle since Kabul cannot seem to get off his armchair for match days. And we've all said that the goalkeeper's not ideal, but in a vice-captaincy position, that's where the armband lies right now.
Is Kabul even on the bench today?
No.
Was he even on the bench?
No, Kabul probably wasn't even in the parking lot. Oh, sorry, car park. But let's say next season we've had a clear out and we have to name a new club captain.
Harry.
No.
Nope.
Nope.
Shouldn't be a forward. Never should be a forward.
Yeah, too much pressure.
Yeah. Most of the guys are too young, in my opinion.
That's the problem, because you look at Bentaleb, and he looks like he's got future captain written all over him in about 3 years.
You saw that on Twitter today. A lot of people were tweeting when we won the penalty, just the passion on his face. And I think he just loves Spurs, and he's a future captain, absolutely. Is he a bit too young to take the armband right now? Maybe so. So I don't know.
Let me ask this.
On those who start right now, he's the obvious choice, but I would probably give it to Vertonghen. I know he's been up and down, but he's had a good season. He's shown the passion. He's shown the desire. I wish there was probably a bit more leadership from him so that we could say he's the natural choice. But he's my pick.
Okay.
He's got the years to do it.
Sam, go ahead, and I'm going to be last because I've got a question before.
I don't necessarily. Well, I understand your mindset on captains, how it shouldn't be a goalkeeper, but in the absence of that proper candidate in the midfield, I have no issues whatsoever with Lloris being the captain. So, and I don't think that you put it on. Like, the only forward that I can really think of that has a big captaincy role in the Premier League is Rooney, but, look, it took him quite some years to get that armband. So
I think Company's role is huge with City.
Yeah, well, it's not that I don't think that Vertonghen. I just think I think if a big club came in for Vertonghen next year, he'd be out of here.
They're not coming for him. There's no way. He's too inconsistent.
No, well, look, Barcelona came from Vermaelen, so I wouldn't count that out. He's a decent defender. I mean, he could play for most Champions League teams, and you can't blame a guy for wanting to play Champions League. I don't know that Lloris would. I think maybe if Madrid came in for him, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think those things sort of motivate a Lloris versus a Vertonghen. But look, that's purely conjecture, and it's just opinion. I have no idea.
So my question is two-parted then for you guys. How big a deal is the captaincy?
Huge.
It's massive. Okay.
Is it? I think people make a big deal of the captaincy, and obviously we wouldn't be having this conversation. But it is too big a deal. It really is. Everyone should show their leadership on the pitch. I think Harry does it. We talked about it before. He does it in the dressing room. You've seen the passion from Bentaleb. We've seen it from Lloris. Granted, he's wearing it.
Bentaleb to me is the closest thing from a long-term perspective.
Yeah.
He's the most Harriman-like player to me, in my opinion.
This is the second part of my question. Is having that captaincy, say like a Lloris or a Vertonghen, something that mentally, over the course of history, has stabilized a player not to leave, or would say, you know what, I'm not leaving. I'm the captain of this team. That this is my team. I'm going to stay. If they got offered something somewhere else, and
potentially with the right captain, but we don't have anybody really I mean, the oldest tenure at the club is Kyle Walker now, I think, right?
Yeah, but he's no
Rose.
captain.
But Rose. But you understand my point is that there isn't that figure in the club to be able to exert that kind of power and
right.
influence.
And we talked about that. You know, is the true captain on this team even on the squad yet? And to a man, we kind of said no.
Well, I think we have the best captain that we have in terms of qualities of a man.
Yeah.
And that's he just has the wrong position.
Okay. I think ideally in the future it's going to be Nabil. Ideally in the future. But again, it's not next year, maybe the year after. 21 years old, I think at that point he's been playing, that'll be his 4th year in the senior team. I think at that point you can say if he's matured at the rate that his maturity is growing, I say he's good.
Well, speaking of the importance of captains, let me be very clear.
Okay.
I understand who the captain of this podcast is, Kenny. And I understand who the captain of the Dallas Spurs is, Worthy Chairman.
And what does that make you?
A fucking nobody.
Red-headed stepchild.
I'll be the captain.
You'll be captain. I'll be vice captain.
A dog's body. That's exactly what that makes me, and I'm glad to be there.
You are.
England have moved ahead to 263.
Oh, enough with the cricket.
Hey,
Okay.
someone out there listening is going to appreciate that. I went to the Cricket World Cup when I lived in Australia. It was fantastic. Ian Botham, get stuck in there, mate.
I used to live by Lords. I really did. I honestly did.
Yeah?
Well, it's a
St
lot of
John's
fun.
Wood, isn't
I
it?
did.
Hmm?
I did. It is. Yes, it is. It's on St. John's Wood Road. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
There's no foul poles, right? You can just hit it anywhere.
Foul poles?
Foul
What are you on about?
There's rope. There's a rope.
There's a rope around the
Whatever.
oval.
And it's a 6 if you knock it over the rope in the air. And
All right.
I know. Fuck.
Stop
sorry.
with the cricket.
Okay, nothing. Okay.
My wife has just gone for another beer because 1:18. We got at least another 30 minutes
Is there
left.
anything educational that we
my
can
God.
that we can pass on here? Because we're being a bunch of yuck monkeys now.
I'm done.
No.
Okay.
no.
Are we
Anybody got
really
any more
done?
shout outs? Anything? Good?
Yeah,
I do. Go ahead, Chairman. Go ahead. I got one.
Well, I mentioned Orlando Hotspur, so
Yep.
good lad, love him to death. Keith.
Nicholson?
Young fella who exposed himself, by the way. Oh well, not that one.
Pardon?
Not that one. No. He actually revealed himself. I think that's the digital way of yeah. He's a young lad.
Jim will fix it.
No. Chairman, Kenny
Tony
doesn't know who
Blackburn.
that is. You ever heard of Jimmy Savile? Ken?
No.
No, he don't want to.
You ever been in a Turkish prison?
Time
yet.
McKangaroo down sport. Right, enough.
Sorry, I ruined your shout out. No.
Turkey's close enough to England, I might end up in prison. It's going to be a wild thing.
Keith Nicholson reels them back in.
Yeah.
You were talking. He exposed himself.
Oh no! Dallas, Orlando Spurs. He just posted a picture of himself.
Oh, he did.
Twitter.
Excellent.
Yeah, sorry.
You're talking about Keith.
Yeah.
Sorry, Keith, you did not expose yourself. Keith gave us a shout out on his Facebook page. Come on, you Spurs, to dare is to do. Top page. They've taken on this day in Spurs history and run with that since we packed that in after a year, and they do a phenomenal job. Mm-hmm. But they were just astounded that we had 20 people down the pub at 5:45 this morning for the game. So Keith is a big fan of us. He loves listening to the podcast.
What's up,
Thanks
Keith?
for your support, Keith. Well done, mate.
Yeah,
We'd love to see you in May when we come over. I know you live in the London area, and it'd be awesome if you could come down, even if it's not for the match, just to have a pint down the Billy Nick or the Bell and Hare or the Brick.
How young is he? What's the drinking age in England? Like 12?
I think Keith is a little older than 12.
Oh, okay.
He is. I think he's a.
Keith
Yeah.
is up there with us.
Oh, okay. I thought you said he was a young lad.
No, that's
No, that's Orlando. That's Orlando.
Oh, okay. My bad. I got you guys backwards.
He's the young
Many
man.
Come on, Keith.
ciders.
I think even Orlando's
Too many ciders.
Sam's buying. Come on.
We'll ask Orlando if he's of legal drinking age.
He is a high school student, so I
Oh, is he?
know-
Ooh.
He skipped a few years, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're all going to hell.
Go by the single. Wouldn't it be nice if Bobby did score at Wembley? Can you
He's not going to
imagine?
get on the pitch.
Oh, he will. He'll be in the squad, mate.
You think so?
You know, one thing we didn't mention in our pregame, but I think is a great resource. There's a website called the offshoregame.net. And Archway Steel lost its CPO case.
Yay!
It's not over yet. It's not over yet. They actually do have another appeal. They've got 21 days.
Doesn't matter.
It's a fascinating story.
I read the piece. It's good.
And I know that we didn't really get to touch on it, ironically, very much last week with Martin and Adam. But I highly encourage...
Martin might have. We just didn't hear it.
Fair play. But go to the offshoregame.net. And admittedly it's biased because it's a website that's motivated to sort of expose the ills of offshore interest owning football clubs globally, which I don't think is very fair as it relates to ENIC. But it does speak to the CPO, and it's a very, very long article on the sort of the cover of the website that elicited a tremendous amount of differing views that I think is very, very interesting to read when you want to try and differentiate and understand the issues of running a business versus being a pillar in the community and being sort of an anchor business in a community, and some of the social issues that relate to the business of football. So it's a very, very, very interesting situation. I think ultimately, their case is not going to hold up, and they're losing. They've lost this piece.
And I think the one thing that I took from that article was that the fact of the matter is that over there in Great Britain, a single entity cannot hold up a redevelopment project if it's for the betterment of all the people in that within that redevelopment project. That's right. There are thousands of people that are going to be affected by this, and Archway Steel does not have a leg to stand on when it comes right down to it. And the problem is that the money that Tottenham offered them can now be rejected. Tottenham have offered them way more than that business is worth to just piss off and go move somewhere else. We're going to build you a new facility. We're going to pay you 5 times what your business is worth and move.
I agree.
If they lose that CPO, they don't get any of that. They get the value of their... If the judge comes back and says, you know what, you're disrupting a project that affects all these people, you lose. They now don't get what Tottenham offered. They can pull that off the table, and they now get what their business is actually worth. They're shooting themselves in the foot by continuing this fight.
Well, I think if the one thing that I kind of gleaned from all of this is that both sides made a tremendous amount of mistakes. If Spurs would have really done this right, it never should have come to this in the first place.
No, when they set fire to it, they should have made sure the damn place burnt down.
God, you're terrible.
Shocking. Who is this Ken Saxon?
Lord. And I called him the captain of the podcast.
It's interesting when...
I'm just kidding, by the way.
No, I know. Come on.
We know. When the High Court ruling came out on Friday, somebody had tweeted out Archway Steel's Twitter account. Like, really? Why do they need a Twitter account? But apparently they had hashtag FOYS on there. It didn't last long, but
really,
somebody may have photoshopped it. I don't know, but
I don't know.
It certainly did the rounds.
He's been pretty approachable on Twitter and hasn't done like rant and rave. There's questions as to the nobility of his cause, and that hey, look, you could have been more overt about, hey, look, this was about a lot of the issues related around affordable housing, and they contend that the plan that was put forth is not really the plan that you have today, and that Spurs is getting away with not providing as much affordable housing as possible. But
we went through this over here with the Cowboys Stadium being built, and a lot of CPOs for, and certainly they didn't get any businesses kind of sticking a rod in the ground like these guys did. And at the end of the day, we need to move on from this, and it's about time that this happens. You've seen some of the recent aerial shots of White Hart Lane, the development. I think, is it Lily White House?
It's beautiful. It's done.
They were showing that to the left, and I believe the old gilded cockerel and clock is going to be there. And I remember seeing that years ago, and I'd asked the question, where has that gone? Obviously, they took it down, put it in storage. It'd be nice for that to return. But you can clearly see the markings of where the new stadium and its oval shape will be.
It's gigantic. Yeah, I mean, look, when you go there in May, you'll see it. I mean, there's the ground site, and then the only thing that's impeding this ground site is Archway. So one of their arguments is that, well, they might not go through with the project, which is farcical to even make that claim because there's this gigantic hole.
There's so much development that's gone
on.
That's just
but the whole point was, look, draw your own conclusions, but it speaks to a very complex set of issues. It's not a perfect process. And no matter how well it would be done, it's not going to keep everybody happy. But I do believe that the end